I think it provides an alternative to the traditional route of you're either a billion-dollar company or you're not fundable. I think equity crowdfunding opens up that possibility. People building great businesses, but not necessarily, I'm going to be the next Uber. Yeah.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Adventure Capital, a podcast hosted by Wefunder. We're so excited to introduce you today to Christine Outram, the CEO of Everydae, aka the world's smartest digital tutor. During their Wefunder campaign, Everydae raised $1.28 million from 1,605 investors. So, our very own awesome human, Johnny Price, sat down with Christine to talk about her secrets to success. Buckle in. You're in for a treat.
Woo.
Good to go.
All right. Christine, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Johnny.
So let's get started. Maybe you could tell everyone listening a little bit about Everydae.
Absolutely. So I'll start by telling you the problem. Most high schoolers need help getting from 9th grade to 12th grade and then up into college or career. Problem is that tutoring and supplemental education today is prohibitively expensive. So only about 15% of families can afford tutoring, which leaves 85% of families not able to. You're talking on average $75 per hour for a tutor.
Wow. That's even more than I pay our nanny.
Right. You can get, $20 an hour tutors, but then I think many parents ask themselves, but is that actually going to move the needle with my child? And I think just because you've got a 1600 on the SAT doesn't mean you're actually able to teach somebody else how to get 1600 on the SAT. So $75 per hour and up, although there are tutors who cost $1,000, $1,200 and up. So there are elite tutors who charge this much. Yeah.
I'm in the wrong line of work.
Yeah, exactly. We all should switch. So that's kind of the problem that we have seen. And we had a previous company called Veritas Prep, and we all worked there. And so we're kind of veterans of the ed tech industry. Veritas Prep was sold in 2018, but there was one thing that we didn't sell, and that was some adaptive technology that we'd started to develop. And by adaptive, I mean something that if you as a student came to us, we could understand your strengths and your weaknesses, and then we could give you exactly the right content you needed to get maximize your score in the minimum amount of time. So, the content adapts. So we took that with us and we spun it out into a new business, Everydae. With Everydae, students can ace their high school classes all through 10-minute micro lessons that adapt based on their needs and their goals. And unlike a traditional tutor, which is $75 an hour and up, Everydae starts at $19 a month. So it's much more affordable.
Awesome. And what stage were you at with Everydae when you launched the Wefunder campaign? Where are you at now?
Yeah, so we had the team, we had the tech. We launched our beta with SAT in December last year, when that was a free beta. And then we launched the Wefunder campaign in January.
So it's interesting, like you just launched a product and you were launching the campaign. That's two quite gargantuan things to be focused on at the same time. What was the thoughts on the sequencing there?
I mean, we had, we basically kind of split the team. I worked on Wefunder, and then the rest of the team were working on the product as we got more customers. It's funny, COVID-19 really was an incredible lightning strike moment for online education. It became increasingly important to have things that keep students engaged and not just teach them great content, but actually be something that they want to use. So that was fantastic for us, and we just kind of saw natural growth from that. But we moved to Wefunder because we were thinking about kind of various sources of funding. And I had a bunch of early meetings with VCs in the couple of months leading up to launching our beta. They were great conversations, and honestly, I've developed great relationships there that I'm still updating and kind of keeping in contact with. But we were just too close to launching our beta to really secure any early stage funding from VCs. So one of the most attractive things for me when it came to equity crowdfunding was just access to all of these people across the country. And it was strategic in that way. I wanted to build a community of champions and really set out to do that from the very beginning. So it was never just about money. It was about kind of understanding who was passionate about the problem we were trying to solve and, who wanted to kind of be on board with us.
Mm-hmm. So within that, are there specific examples of that you've seen through the Wefunder campaign, or how did you hope that those supporters and investors through the campaign would add value to Everyday beyond the money?
We were thinking about educators a lot and spreading the word with them. But actually through the campaign, what I realized was it wasn't just educators. It was a lot of people who wished that they had access to tutoring or a better education when they were growing up, and wanted the next generation of people to have that access because they see education as the real gateway to success. Mm-hmm. A couple of stories I have. Very early in the campaign, we met a Pastor Greg. He's become our unofficial salesperson in Virginia. He is part of a church there, but is also part of a church network, so 40 churches. And we're kind of looking at selling Everyday as a bulk subscription into the congregation and making sure that the teenagers in that congregation have access to something that can help them succeed. So that's...
So you weren't looking at churches as a sales channel before, and how did you connect with Pastor Greg?
This is the first thing that I did, even before the campaign started, is I went to every single crowdfunding site and pulled out all of the companies that were education tech related. And then we have an Upworker who scraped all of the names and found emails for all of these people. And I just wrote to them. And I didn't even say to them, hey, I want you to invest in Everyday. I just wrote, I was like, hey, I'm passionate about this. It looks like you're passionate too. I'd love you to check out what we're up to. Here's our 2-minute video. Let me know if you're interested in chatting more. And
that's a really cool example of a kind of creative approach to marketing the campaign, but in a way that's like not too spammy. Like you're focusing on people that are obviously interested in investing in ed tech. And so was Pastor Greg on that? I like how we're calling him Pastor Greg as opposed to Greg.
I do.
He was on that list.
He was on the list, and he wrote back, and he watched our video and just was really interested in starting a conversation with us. And he's more than a pastor. He's a kind of very entrepreneurial background and really connected with what we're trying to do. Yeah, he's an example. I have several other examples of people who have just wanted to introduce us to principals of high schools or counselors or other people who
cool. Are you like specifically asking your investors for these leads and connections, or are they just kind of voluntarily reaching out to you and saying, hey, like we need to bring Everyday in here?
The majority of the time I didn't ask them specifically, but what we would do was monitor as everybody invested. You obviously have a chance to write why you invested. Anything where somebody mentioned that if you ever need help with this, or, I'm interested in this aspect of it, we would follow up with them and start a conversation.
Aren't those notes just the best? I love just reading those. We have a Slack channel of like all the investments on Wefunder, and all the notes then come along with those investments. And one of my favorite things to do is just like be reading through those notes. And it's so cool how overwhelmingly it's like, I love what you're doing. I believe in what you're doing. I believe in this founder, as opposed to we hardly ever see like, oh, I want to make a ton of money. Like I want to become a millionaire.
Although it's funny, I also was going back through them, and I guess I missed a couple of them. But one of the investors was like, I really believe in your vision. I think it's amazing. Also, I think you're pretty hot.
There you go. So Wefunder raised $1 million and also potentially... So talk us through some of the logistics. Like, when did you launch the campaign? How much did you raise? Like maybe a little bit of the experience of actually running the campaign.
We launched the campaign at the end of January. It was 95 days that was alive, and we were Reg CF, so we were going for the 1,070,000, but we oversubscribed at 1.24 million. So really successful.
Do you know how many investors?
1,560, I believe.
Awesome. When you talk about the value add that they're bringing, the connections that they're making, I presume you're looking to keep that going, to keep leveraging that, to engage them. Like, do you have any specific plans there, or is it just kind of, no, just generally we're going to keep updating them on the business and looking?
We have very specific plans, including the first plan is we're launching referral codes. If you give your referral code to somebody, then they get 10% off. But if they end up signing up, you get a $10 cash kickback too.
So there's now a double financial incentive that they have. Obviously, normally with a referral code, people are financially incentivized, but now also if that spreads, then the value of their equity is going to be rising over time.
Yeah, I mean, we're all in this together. You know, it takes a village to grow a business, and I now have a village. It's amazing.
Yeah. A city, a veritable metropolis.
One of the things we did during the campaign is we kind of utilized our investors as well. I knew that we had a lot of passionate investors. I knew that we wanted to include more people like them. So I wrote to them and I said, hey, today just post on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter. Here are the links. A lot of them did. That was fantastic.
So cool. You mentioned video earlier. You did an awesome pitch deck walkthrough on the video. It's very difficult for us to know, okay, how important is a video in driving investment volume? Anecdotally, do you have any stats on like number of video views?
What I came to think about through the campaign was how important it is to be able to tell a story that people can relate to and emotionally connect with. And that was always the purpose of our video. I remember when we were first putting together our video and I was talking to the person who was filming it and doing some of the scripting and editing. And it's like, all I want is to make people cry. If you go to our Wefunder page today and watch it, I guarantee you'll have tears in your eyes. I think we succeeded. So we actually had two videos we were trying to decide between. We had the kind of this 2-minute emotional story. And then we had the, here's all the numbers and here's how we existed and everything else. And in the end, we just put up a 2-minute emotional story. And so we had people write to us and say that that's why I'm interested, because it made me feel something.
One thing, we did a podcast with Legion M recently, who've now raised close to $10 million on Wefunder from about 30,000 people. And one thing that they said really struck me. They said the people that invested in us invested not to make a ton of money, but because they were just passionate about the entertainment industry and they wanted to have a seat at the table, and they were so excited to be an owner of this company. But ironically, they thought that would actually help them to succeed as a business, because those people are super passionate and are going to be helping them out and contributing in the community forums that they've built. Whereas if it's someone that's motivated by money, that it's just more transactional. So
yeah, I think it definitely helps. And we had both.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier, one of the main reasons you were interested in running a campaign on Wefunder was that you wanted to recruit an army of champions and brand ambassadors. Were there other factors that why Wefunder or why equity crowdfunding?
Yeah, it felt like something very achievable, even though it was hard work. It was just as hard work as raising with VCs, if not harder.
Yeah. How would you contrast the experience having just finished a Wefunder campaign of raising money this way versus more conventional means like angels, VCs, etc.?
I think the biggest difference to me was the creativity when it came to Wefunder. Actually, the thing that worked best for us was a lot of game day decisions. It was a lot of creativity in real time. I mean, I'll give you an example. We had our minimum set to 500. That was working well for us, but we also had people who would write to me and say, hey, can you lower the minimum? I didn't want to lower the minimum forever to 250 or 200. So we started doing these limited time offers where we would drop the minimum to 250 for between 3 and 5 days and then bring it back up again. That kind of mini campaign drove a bunch of traffic because we got the word out through a variety of angel investor networks around it. So
that is a great point. I love seeing the creativity of different founders. Yeah, one of the things we want to do on these podcasts is try and tease some of those out. And what other tactics did you find to be successful? And also what did you try that maybe wasn't successful?
As is common with many campaigns. We hustled in the beginning with family and friends. We did an investor brunch that was actually pretty successful with family and friends.
Back in the days when we could have brunches
with each other, exactly. Probably the things that moved the needle the most were connecting with Neil Patel and the Angels and Entrepreneurs group, but then also Chris Gravy at Startup Camp as well. Those two groups drove a lot of traffic. Facebook and Instagram ad campaigns, we obviously did a lot of. I actually wrote to 10 successful founders from Wefunder about a month before our campaign closed. And I asked them, what was the most successful tactics you did? Overwhelmingly, the most common piece of advice I got there was spend more money on Facebook and Instagram advertising in the last couple of weeks.
I would say, like, definitely the return on ad spend we see spike during the last week of the campaign. I think two things. One, because of the deadline. And then two, because, you know, by that point, you've got like 500,000 from 500, 1,000 investors. So anyone that sees an ad, clicks on it, there's that social proof there. About that, because how much did you raise in the last week? It really kind of came through in the end, right?
At 9 p.m. on Wednesday, the week before we closed, so exactly 1 week before we closed, we hit 600,000.
Wow, 600K. That's insane.
Yeah, 600K in the last week. And it was a waterfall of emails, which was extremely exciting. One of the success stories from our Facebook advertising, actually, we saw very good return on ad spend, so about 5 to 1. I think we spent about $18,000 and got over 100,000 in, and that's of the things we could track. I got contacted by somebody who said, hey, I'm interested in investing between 50 to 75K, and can we get on a call to chat? And so of course I did. Very worthwhile investment. And it turned out that it wasn't just one person, it was actually a family who were interested in investing. So I had a great family call with the dad and the two sons and the daughter, and we went through the business and we talked about what we were trying to build and what we were trying to do. They ended up investing at $50,000, and I asked them, how did you hear about us? And the son said, I saw an Instagram ad of yours.
Really? That was how they heard about it? Wow, amazing.
Yeah.
One question for you. You wrote a lot of updates on the campaign. How do you think about the balance between frequently updating, like engaging people, especially towards the end, versus like not annoying people or like communicating too much?
I gotta say, I was kind of lax in the beginning on those updates. So I definitely picked up in the end. The approach that I took was that, each thing needed to feel like news. And this would be a piece of advice for the founders out there. Every single update I did, I made sure the name of our company was in the update title. And I've seen other founders not do this. I've been like, update 2. And I'm like, but who are you? And actually, second to that is you're going to have more success making a partnership with somebody who has an extensive network already than trying to reach, lots and lots of individuals. So even though me scraping those emails of all of the people who had invested in EdTech companies was brilliant for building relationships, and it did get us some money, really where the big swings came was through partnership.
Got it. That's great advice. And then lastly, a piece of advice for someone starting a startup.
Think twice? No. I mean, the best piece of advice is, less talky, more makey.
Less talky, more makey. I like that.
Less talky, more makey. Mm-hmm. Starting a startup is hard. I think the biggest thing is making sure that you are building something that people want, and being able to test whether they want it, often before you've even written a line of code. So how can you test the market first? Make sure that there's market demand. Probably the biggest thing I've seen over and over again with startups is just the build it and they will come.
Isn't that like a little, I always thought that focus on building something and then let's put it out there and hopefully people will come, that is in the same like less talky, more makey vibe, isn't it? But like the alternative is maybe more like the MBA approach where it's like, oh, I'm going to do like years and years of market research. And so that's almost, is there a tension there?
Right. When I say more makey, I don't mean more makey in terms of code or product.
Okay.
I mean, more makey in terms of discovering the fundamentals of the business and whether that's going to work. And that's not a kind of intellectual exercise.
It's a real world exercise, but it's maybe like talking to customers as opposed to necessarily building code and writing code.
Like more work on the product market fit before you even have the product. Like, what is the vision of the product? And then how do you test whether that vision is something that people actually want and need and will pay for? Because if you can test that before you even kind of build out the full thing, then not only have you built a community of people who are interested and they've signed up for your thing when it launches, but you haven't wasted time building out something in a vacuum that you don't
Right.
people want.
Very cool. Thank you for that pearl of wisdom at the end there, and just all of these insights for folks that might be considering or currently running regulation crowdfunding campaigns.
Yeah, great to chat with you. I'm so glad we did Wefunder. Honestly, it's changed the way I've thought about the startup ecosystem and the way that founders should have access to capital. We would definitely consider doing another round.
So that's a really profound way to end it. I mean, we probably should just like drop the mic there and end the podcast, but I do want to ask you a follow-up question on that. Like, that's so cool. What do you mean by that? Like, it's changed the way you view the startup ecosystem.
I think it provides an alternative to the traditional route of you're either a billion-dollar company or you're not fundable.
Mm-hmm.
I think equity crowdfunding opens up that possibility. You know, people building great businesses, but not necessarily I'm going to be the next.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this episode with Christine Outram from Everydae. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure to subscribe and also leave a review telling us what you think. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Adventure Capital.
May be constraining towards companies and how they raise capital, as then a lot of potential issues associated with it. Yeah, thanks for saying that. And yeah, it was an absolute pleasure to work with you and the team like through the whole campaign, and hope we might do it again one day.
Yeah, me too.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.